Welcome to the InforMaven AI Update, a podcast for higher education administrators to discuss the practical use of AI and intelligent agents. I'm JD Mosley-Matchett, the founder and CEO of InforMaven, a company that helps you work smarter by harnessing the power of intelligent agents. And this month, our guest is Brian Moynihan, the Director of AI and Automation Projects at Duke University and author of the best-selling book, AI Culture Shift. How can AI reduce risks for administrators? Many administrators worry about compliance, accreditation, and data privacy. How can AI actually reduce risk in these areas rather than add to it?
I mean, certainly it gets both, right? We wouldn't want to say that AI is all good or it's all bad. I think too often we get into these sorts of discussions. And to me, the word balance comes up again and again, and trade-offs comes up again and again. That being said, I think with responsible use of AI, it can reduce risk in a number of ways. You can improve consistency, traceability, visibility, and decision-making. And a lot of that actually comes down to data. Right? So 80% of what AI is, especially if you're going to do it in your own organization, is data. And when universities start thinking about what's our secret sauce? Well, why should we, for instance, build something with our development team rather than just buy it off the shelf from somebody else? And I think generally the answer is because you've got the data, right? And so that's that connecting the data across those elements that's really important. And of course, there's problems with connecting the data. Nobody wants to give up their data source, even within the university setting, because they're afraid, that they'll leak information, there'll be some sort of safety risk. But if you think about standardized processes, generally when you ask about an AI question, it's like, well, we've got this process that's inefficient. It's like, okay, let's add AI to it. And then the first question is actually, we need to say, what is the process? And then generally you realize that nobody's thought through very well what the process is. And then so just even asking that question, even if you had no technology, would usually improve the process just because people start paying attention to it and adding some logic to it. And so AI is going to supercharge whatever process you have. So you want that process to be good. But then you get data governance. So probably AI, because you can do so much with it, because it's built on these things, because it's efficient, you come to understand that you don't have access to the data you thought you had, and you don't have a process that you need. These things, if you're deploying, should be within controlled environments. So universities can have their own, for instance, Microsoft 365 Copilot license, or or whatever tool that they're using. There are ways to having these things that are sort of bounded on-prem. And AI can actually help in a lot of ways with human error and bias, and especially when you have this process where it's like the AI and the human working together. So I don't know how many processes would very quickly just move to full automation. Again, I think this idea of 0% or 100% automation is the wrong way of thinking about it. But thinking about how do we sort of get through the basic stuff, and say there's an HR process that that you would be sending out a letter to somebody. Before that is sent, you might get a first draft of that letter, and you might be able to pull in some variables from what you know about that person and the position you're talking to them about, things like that. You want to make sure that a human reviewed that, make sure it makes sense. But even just having that and the trail behind it can sort of reduce risk in some of those areas. So definitely transparency and that human in the loop is key. So I think when designing these things, I don't know if people talk about privacy by design, ethics by design, safety by design. It's thinking about these things that we want to add, not just at the end, we have a product we're going to ship, or this is our process. It's you put it at the beginning and think, how do we start with that as a beginning? And generally when you do that, there's a certain through line that helps. So AI by itself, just left on its own, is not going to solve your problems. It's going to supercharge whatever cracks in the system there are. But I think, the thoughtful use of it and really thinking it through is a new opportunity to begin thinking from the beginning again about these processes. And so I think when I say thinking from the beginning, it's not like you just throw out all your legacy stuff and completely begin again. If you're a completely new organization, you could maybe do that and begin from the ground up with an AI outlook. But I think, having a vision of where you're trying to get, then you can start to work backwards to, okay, this is the legacy system we've got. How do we begin with maybe change management processes that we're already going through, strategic things that we were already deciding to do, places that we see the biggest pain points, and then start building towards that vision that you have that might be a few years out.
Please visit InforMaven.ai to hear the entire interview.